So, ladies and gentlemen, when Eddie Shack retired in the NHL, there was a lot of speculation who was going to take his place as sort of like the folk hero of the show. And there was a lot of possibilities. Tiger Williams didn't really fit. But this guy, for a lot of people, fit. And many, many years ago, I had a woman in the States convinced that this player was a Canadian porn star. No disrespect to Harold, but he looks like one. But I showed him, a picture of this guy. Oh, that guy's a famous Canadian porn star. Because she was asking me, who is Harold Snepsts? I'll tell you who Harold Snepsts is. One of the most beloved and respected players in Vancouver Canuck history and NHL history. Now, he's probably one of the first players. We look at Latvia now as a strong hockey power, on the juniors and the senior. But Harold Snepsts' family hails from Latvia, and he's very, very proud of that. He's very proud of what he's done for the communities he's been involved with, the teams he's been involved with, and again, he's one of the most popular players in the history of the NHL. Now, because Snepsts was born in Edmonton, Alberta, he drew a lot of interest in the early 1970s, especially with the Western Conference CHL's Edmonton Oil Kings. Now, his stay-at-home defensive style basically drew a lot of attention. Second season with Edmonton, he had 49 points, which led him to being eventually drafted by the Vancouver Canucks before the 74-75 season. And the Indianapolis Racers had big interest as well. Vancouver took a 59 pick on him. WHA Indy was 105. But, he became an extreme strong impression in training camp. And although he appeared only 27 goals for the Canucks in 74-75, he eventually recorded his first NHL goal. Now, in 76, he became a regular for the Canucks, appearing in 78 games and recording 3 assists and 18 points. And again, a fan favorite, hard-working guy, blue-collar guy, nice-looking guy, big Lanny McDonald mustache. Now, according to we in the media, and I tend to agree, during the late 1970s and early 80s, Snepsts was Vancouver's most effective defender. Very rarely would make a mistake, and it paid off for him because he made 2 All-Star games in 77 and 82, and he was named the club's top defender 4 times between 77 and 82. Now, he also showed improvement on offense. He had 31 points in 78-79, and one of his early career highlights, he became one of the few defensemen in NHL history, and the first in Canucks history, to score on a penalty shot. This game, February 2nd, 1980. Now, unfortunately, throughout these first years with the Canucks, they were one of the weaker teams in the NHL. However, with the acquisition of certain players, including the great play of Snepsts and Richard Brodeur, and they were a tower strength in the playoffs. The famous game where he threw up the white towels against Chicago. They outlasted the weaker teams in the western side because, as you know, that was year Edmonton was eliminated in the playoffs by the Kings. They eventually got to the Stanley Cup final, and although Vancouver was up in 4 games, Snepsts can always say he led his team to the Stanley Cup finals. Now, he was very susceptible to injuries in 82-83. He had many problems with chronic injuries. He also drew the ire of the league when he was suspended 5 games for allegedly, I didn't see it, fighting Doug Risebrough under the stands at the Pacific Coliseum. Not on the ice, ladies and gentlemen, under the stands. But by 84, he had a better season, but Harry Neal was getting tired of the older players on the team, and in one of the most unpopular moves in NHL history, he was dealt to the Minnesota North Stars. Now, he left Vancouver, the club's all-time leader in games played in penalty minutes, which were later broken by the great Stan Schmiel. Now, Snepsts never really found his game in Minnesota and lasted only one season there. Now, he had one of his roughest seasons with 232 minutes and penalties, and the prediction that we all thought of him, because Detroit was very rugged at the time, he was signed as a free agent with the Red Wings the next season, but unfortunately the injury bug continued to hit him, and knee problems limited to just 35 games in 85-86, and which was a tradition for Snepsts. He failed to score a goal for the second consecutive season. Now, in the 87, he was having his best season in years for, again, that Steve Yzerman led an improved Detroit team until he injured his shoulder in February, and he re-injured him in the playoffs. Now, the off-season surgery to correct it forced him to miss the first half of the 88 season, although he returned up the Wings, reached the Campbell Conference Final, or the semifinals, for the second straight year. Now, 80-89 season would be a homecoming for Snepsts, as he signed a free agent contract with the Canucks and returned to Vancouver. Now, he was what he called a depth defender. He was a steadying influence as the team set a club record for fewer goals against. And according to what I heard, Canucks fans started a chant called "Harold, Harold," something from the stands that will follow him for the rest of his career, and sometimes shouted to later players such as Harold Drunken. Now, late in the 89-90 season, he was dealt to the St. Louis Blues to add experience in the playoffs. He played out his final season with the Blues, during which he played in his milestone 1,000th NHL game before retiring in 91. Now, he was also one of the last players to play in the NHL without a helmet, and after his retirement, only 5 helmetless players remained in the league. Problem is, his mustache or his hair were so prominent that was his helmet. Now, Snepsts appeared in 1,033 NHL games over his career, recording 38 goals and 195 assists for 233 points, along with 2,009 penalty minutes. Now, on March 14, 2011, the Canucks organization inducted Snepsts in the Ring of Honor. Now, he did serve some time as a head coach, including the Peoria Rivermen St. Louis affiliate in the IHL. Despite having no coaching experience, he led the team to a 48-25-9 mark before losing the second round in the playoffs. Now, for 93, he was promoted to an assistant coaching position in St. Louis under head coach Bob Plager. However, he remained that position for only a year before being replaced by new head coach Bob Berry. Now, following his departure from the Blues, he spent a season as head coach of the San Diego Gulls of the IHL, leading them to a 93-point season. He then signed on as head coach of the Portland Winterhawks of the WHL for the 99 season, but inherited a rebuilding team and was fired midway through his second season. Now, in 2000, Snepsts was hired as a scout for NHL Central Scouting, and he spent 5 seasons there before returning to the Canucks organization as a scout in 2015. Now, his other endeavors, of course, he raised a lot for charity, because at the age of 13, Snepsts' mother was diagnosed with MS, and of course he spent most of his life since then raising heavy money for a very, very valuable MS charity across Canada. Anybody listening to this, please donate to any MS local campaign. It's a terrible disease, and most of the media in New Brunswick were very heavy in supporting any efforts or any donations towards finding an understanding and maybe a cure for this debilitating disease. Again, 93 games in the playoffs and only 1 goal. That shows you he was not there for just being a nice looking guy. Now, what's really interesting, there's also a song about Harold Snepsts called, ironically, Harold Snepsts, by the Hamilton, Ontario garage punk band, the Dick Van Dykes. D-I-K, by the way. Not anything to do with the Murray Langston Night Patrol, Dyke Van Dyke joke, so let's not talk about that. So, he holds a unique distinction, ladies and gentlemen. He's on a short list of players with 1,000 games played and 2,000 career penalty minutes. So it means every game he played, he averaged a penalty. And that, for me, as a lover of old-time hockey, you look at the movie Slapshot, ladies and gentlemen, okay? And some of the opposing players against the Charlestown Chiefs, I'm sure that you're seeing Harold Snepsts in certain players. Not physically, but he seems like a type of player would play for an opposing team just for the fun of it. Because I've never heard any media person or any hockey player saying Harold Snepsts is a dirty guy or he's an idiot or whatever. The man was beloved, and I mean why would a person like me who use Harold Snepsts as a joke? Any player would come to the Montreal Canadiens, wouldn't score a goal. I would always say, at least Harold Snepsts didn't score, but he did something. Danny Geoffrion, Norm Dupont, 1980 season, ladies and gentlemen. Combined almost 60 games. Never scored. I would rather Harold Snepsts taking a regular shift on the forward line from Montreal that year. He could have scored. I'm still surprised. Toronto Maple Leafs, Boston Bruins, Montreal Canadiens never took a chance on him, but that's the way it goes. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. Usually I do a Montreal Canadian podcast, but this is a request. And as we like to say in the media rooms across Canada, if Harold Snepsts scores, it's going to be a snowstorm tomorrow. Because usually, when Harold Snepsts would score, the next day, whether it was BC, Alberta, Ontario, Quebec, the Maritimes, there would be a storm the next day, even in the spring, because it was rare, like a late spring snowstorm. Anyway, have a good evening. Keep your stick in the ice. Bye.